Hi there! Welcome to What is Islam Academy. Let's learn about Islam together.
Have you ever heard this question? If Islam is so merciful and just, why does the Quran mention slavery? Did Islam really support owning people? And why didn't the Quran abolish slavery outright? Many critics throw this as a knockout punch. But is it really? Let's break it down. Historically, morally, and logically, like D. and Zakir Naik would. We'll look at context, scriptural directives, social change, and practical examples. Calm, clear voice, no music, only natural sounds. Let's begin. First, understand the time and place. When the Quran was revealed, slavery was a global norm for thousands of years. It was practiced in every civilization, Roman, Greek, Persian, African. It was fueled by constant wars. Prisoners became slaves. No system then could stop it overnight. Stopping it instantly was not feasible. Societies, economies, and survival were bound to that reality. So the historical context matters before judging the text by modern standards. Unlike other texts, the Quran didn't invent slavery, it regulated it. It set rules that began dismantling slavery from within, not by abrupt legal bans. It elevated slaves from property to humans with rights. Ahmed D. would ask, "Show me any ancient text that orders freeing slaves like the Quran does." The Quran's measures were systemic, law, ethics, incentives, and spiritual rewards combined. This approach gradually changed attitudes across communities, a social revolution in behavior and law. The Quran explicitly encourages freeing slaves as a virtuous deed. It makes freeing slaves an expiation for sins. Free a believing slave. Surah Al-Mujadila 58:3, Surah Al-Ma'idah 5:89. It makes freeing slaves a condition to correct mistakes, like breaking an oath. Who else at that time tied ritual religious expiation to freeing captives? These repeated commands create a legal and moral pattern. Freeing slaves is worshipful and remedial. That repeated pattern is important. It normalizes liberation, not permanent ownership as unquestioned right. Islam shifted the mindset. The Prophet said, "Your servants are your brothers." He taught, "Feed them what you eat, clothe them as you clothe yourself." Masters were commanded to treat slaves with respect, a radically humane stance for that era. Imagine, a world where slaves could demand rights. 1400 years ago. People once enslaved became leaders, teachers, and heroes in the community. These social teachings created an environment where dignity and rights grew in practice, not just theory. Unlike other systems, the Quran opened many legal doors for freedom. Mukataba, a contract for slaves to earn freedom. Charity, including zakat, includes freeing slaves as a righteous use. A slave could become equal. Bilal ibn Rabah, once enslaved, became one of Islam's greatest heroes. Freed persons served as leaders, teachers, and warriors, fully integrated in society. These institutional doors made freedom actionable, not just aspirational. That legal machinery created pathways out of bondage for many people. Islam closed the supply line, no kidnapping or hunting people for slavery. Only prisoners of war, who otherwise might be killed or starved, were kept as captives, with protections. Even then, the Quran prefers ransom or freeing, not permanent enslavement as the only option. This preference limited the replenishment of new enslaved populations. Regulation plus preference for ransom or freedom built pressure toward reduction, not expansion. In short, Islam narrowed the streams that fed slavery in its era. Dr. Zakir Naik often says, "Compare fairly. The West abolished slavery centuries later. The West abolished slavery after 1,800 plus years, only after machines and major economic shifts. Industrial machines replaced slave labor, creating different economic incentives to end it. The Atlantic slave trade was built on millions kidnapped, a huge, brutal economic system. Islam began the moral and legal dismantling 1400 years ago, without industrial pressures, through moral reform. That difference in starting point and method matters when making fair comparisons. Many companions freed hundreds of slaves. Abu Bakr R.A. spent his money freeing Bilal and others. No force, no riots, a moral revolution through example and spending. Once freed, ex-slaves held leadership, fought battles, and taught Islam. They were not second class. Historical records show many instances where freed persons rose to prominence. These stories illustrate how the system created pathways to full community participation. Ahmed D.'s logic. Islam didn't slam slavery with sudden bans. It dried its roots step by step, because sudden bans could collapse economies and leave people to starve. It combined legal reform, moral teaching, and economic mechanisms to change structures. And today, the Quran's principles stand: equality, justice, brotherhood. These foundations pointed humanity toward universal rights long before modern legal codes. That is the gradual wisdom. Change hearts and systems together. So next time someone says Islam supported slavery, ask, did it create slavery or end it from within? Ask, where else did freeing slaves become worship? Who gave slaves rights before modern human rights existed? No other ancient text pushed humanity this way. Reflect, research, and share respectfully.